بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين. قال الله في كتابه الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم مثل الذين كفروا بربهم أعمالهم كرماد اشتدت به الريح في يوم عاصف لا يقدرون مما كسبوا على شيء ذلك هو ضلال بعيد صدق الله العلي العظيم. Illuminate your hearts and minds with the loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad. These past 2 nights, we have been going over the Islamic view or perspective on choosing a role model, a person I can follow and copy this person's attitudes, imitate this person, so I can improve myself. The human nature is that it always seeks to improve and be better. Correct. Now we have gone over the different examples of what an Islamic deemed worthy role model is, and what role models or people that are not actually good role models are in the perspective of Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One question might come to someone's mind. They might say that there is a very good person I know. He does lots of good things. He gives lots of charity. He helps the poor. He gives donations to different foundations. He helps orphanages. But there's one catch. This person's not a Muslim. This person is not a believer. What about this type of person? Can I choose him as a role model? Can I follow this person as an idol, a person who I can respect and follow as a role model? To answer that, we have to go through a few different stages. The first area which we want to go over is that we have to keep this into account. The relationship between a role model and a follower, a person who's following the role model, is the same as the relationship between a lover and a lovee. What does this mean? That, for example, I love the Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and because he was such a great person, I want to follow the Imam alayhi salam, and I want to have him as my role model. And my relationship towards this person, this role model that I've chosen, is love and pure respect for that person. Now, what about a non-believer? Now, this is a very sensitive topic. Some might be a little uncomfortable with this, but this is the truth and it has to be said. A non-Muslim, a person who is not a believer, I shouldn't have such a relationship with such a person, which I respect them to the extent that in their sadnesses, I'm sad, in their happinesses, I'm happy. So does this mean I have to reject any type of inspiration I might take from this person? No, not at all. The thing that should be rejected here is the relationship of a lover and a lovee. I copy this person, I learn from this person, and I take from this person as inspiration. Not because I respect him so dearly, he's such a great person, in my life he has made so much change. We have so many examples nowadays. In the Arabic language, for example, almost all of our books regarding the Arabic grammar, the Arabic laws, they're from the Sunni section, the Sunni denomination. Now, I have to keep my respect for them, sure. But that doesn't mean that I have to have such respect that they should be considered to me as a loved and respected role model to such an extent that in their sadnesses I'm sad and in their happinesses I'm happy. So another question might come to mind. Then why do such people do good? If they do good, aren't their good actions held important and looked at as significant in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Would such a person's aqibat or end be? How would this person turn out? We'll have to start with ikhlas. What does ikhlas mean? Ikhlas means to do something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, out of the pureness of my heart. And this ikhlas also gives a different stage or level to every single believer. And a hadith from the Prophet, our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, he says that بالإخلاص يتفاضل مراتب المؤمنين. With ikhlas, with purity and intent, doing an action for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, one's level, one's stage, one's status differs. If I have more pure intention for the Creator for doing this act, then I have a higher status than those who have a less pure intention. This type of action, this type of ikhlas, means that whenever I do something, it is out of purity. What is pure? What is this kind of purity supposed to be portraying? What am I supposed to be understanding by this purity? And in a hadith from the Musaddiq alayhi salam, he displays this beautifully and perfectly. He says al-amalul khalis, a pure intended action is الذي لا تريد أن يحمدك الله يحمدك عليه أحد إلا الله. It is an action, is a deed that I do not for the praise of others, but only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In the book of Manazil al-Akhirah, in the beginning, some people have brought an introduction regarding the life of the writer, the author, Sheikh Abbas Qummi, a very respected scholar. And so, in this introduction, they also bring a story, a very interesting story. He who wrote this book himself did not take any credit for it whatsoever. What does this mean? A very interesting story. So one day, he saw that his father would preach this book and teach this book to the people of the masjid who were living in their area. He had lots of respect to his father. He himself wrote this book, and his father was preaching this book and teaching the people about this book. One day, his father came to him and said, "Oh Abbas, you should try to be like the person who wrote this book, the book of Manazil al-Akhirah. He wrote such a great book with such important details, such great contents." But he didn't know that his son was the same exact person who wrote this book. What did Shaykh Abu Suqumi reply? He said that may Allah inshallah give us the succession or the chance or tawfiq of us being able to be like this person. Another story. One of the high scholars, one of the respected scholars, wrote a book consisting of 2 volumes. The first volume was written, and he had given it to a person to hold for him. The person then held it for him, but he saw that he didn't give it back later on. What happened to it? What happened to the book? He saw that this book was being published under another person's name, not his own book. He wrote the book himself. He spent time on it. But he saw this book was being written in another person's name. So he went to the person's house and he knocked on the door. The person then saw him and shake and was surprised and startled. "Oh no, I took this person's book. I published it under my own name. What am I going to do now? He caught me red-handed." Sheikh, the respected scholar, then came up and did something unpredictable. He got the second volume of the book along with him, and he brought him and he gave it to that same person and said that, "Here, take this. This book had 2 volumes. Use this next book and publish it under your own name. I don't want you being embarrassed or looking low in front of others because you did this act." And he was surprised. The man, he said, "Why? Why would you give me the book? Why would you give me the second volume? Honestly, I would expect that you come to me and start arguing and talking about how I shouldn't have done this, and you would take the book back." The respected scholar then said, "No, I don't write books and I don't spread the knowledge of the Ahlul Bayt for other people's praise, but for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala only." And we can see this exact description in the hadith which was brought. Who are those? What is al-amal al-khamis? الذي لا تريد أن يحمدك عليه أحد إلا الله. It is an action which you don't expect praise or gratitude from anyone except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now let's go back to our main topic, not get out of hand. Taking a non-Muslim as a role model. We have gone over how ikhlas is a very important part, right? Not only is this ikhlas used to put difference in status of the believers, but it is also a necessity and an action to be accepted to begin with. And a hadith from the Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says, العمل كله حباء إلا ما أخلص فيه. All the different actions and deeds that there might be, they are rejected, they are denied unless there is pure intention in them. Who am I doing this for? I'm not trying to do this for my friend. For example, he's sitting beside me and he's looking at me. I'm going to do my prayer for him. Why am I giving this charity? I'm not going to be doing it because, for example, the cameras of a certain building are watching me and I'm trying to show that, yes, I'm a very good person and I give charity. But no, only for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these actions are surely accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, why do the non-believers do good to begin with? A disbeliever, he's not a Muslim. This person is doing good. He's doing good deeds that might seem by appearance, giving charity, helping the foundations that there are for the poor, for the orphans. What other reason would this person have? What's the reason for this person doing? Now, objectively thinking, I don't want anyone, there shouldn't be any biased thinking here. No subjective thinking, oh, well, he's did this, he's done this, he's done this. This is a very sensitive subject. But in Islam, when you're trying to believe in this religion, everything should be objective, based on logic. No biased thinking, no subjective thinking. But with pure logic and objectivity. There's either two reasons. One, riya, and one for themselves. What does riya mean? Riya means that I do an action because someone else is watching me. Doing riya or acting for someone is an action so resented that no action or this deed will not be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a hadith from the Prophet, our Prophet, the Prophet Muhammad, he says that إِنَّ اللَّهَ لا يقبل عملا فيه مثقال ذرة من رياء. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not accept a deed or an action if there is the slightest bit of riya inside of it. Alright, let's see this in a story, a very interesting story. One day there was a man, he went to a masjid which was around the area he lived in. This man went to this masjid and he was doing his prayers early in the morning. It's a very famous, popular story. And he was praying and doing the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he heard the door that was there slightly turn. And so he was thinking, could this be a person who came inside the masjid? Is someone watching me right now? Is someone listening to what I'm doing? And so because of this, he stayed there for even longer and longer and did his actions with such, which was looking by appearance, with such focus, with such compassion to the Creator, that when someone would look at him, be like, wow, what a good, great person this is. He worships the Creator with such intent. The man was finished. He got up, he looked around, and he saw that it was a dog. A dog had come by who was seeking shelter inside this masjid. And so this man who mistook this dog for a person had done all that worship, what? For the dog. And riya is exactly just like this. When I do riya, when I do an action for someone else, it's not for the Creator, but it's for the creation. When I'm doing an action a good deed, it's not for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala if it's through riya, but it's through the creation, another person, another being, not Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The first reason of why they might do good and why their deeds aren't accepted. The second, they do it for their own satisfaction. What does this mean? But this needs a lot of attention. They might believe in a certain religion. They might be atheists. They might not believe in God entirely. And so what's the reason that they do this? What's the reason that such a good deed or good action is done? It's not done because of God, the truth, but no, what they think is the truth. I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God at all. But why do I do this act? So I can be satisfied myself. If you do this to be satisfied yourself, what benefit would it have for your hereafter? I'm an atheist, I don't believe in anyone. If I'm not believing in anyone, the reason I do this is to make my own self satisfied. Of course, this won't benefit anyone. Another reason, they're doing it, for example, they're Christians, or they're Jews, or they're Hinduists, or they're Buddhists. They're doing this, why? For their own creator. Now, what is one of the main pillars in Islam? Tawheed. By us bearing witness that La ilaha illallah, that there is no creator worthy of worship except for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is only one creator, and that's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right. Now, an even more determining and based fact, it's inside the Quran itself. The verse that was recited at the beginning, from the Surah of Ibrahim, the 18th verse, this is in the Quran itself. It says that مثل الذين كفروا بربهم أعمالهم كرماد اشتدت به الريح في يوم عاصف. Those who do not believe in their creator, who have drawn paganism towards their creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the truth, their actions are like useless dust going and moving around in the wind day. لا يقدرون مما كسبوا على شيء. And they aren't able to benefit from this action or deed even the slightest. Nothing. And this is in the Quran itself. And now some people might object, might be sensitive. But remember, these types of subjects and topics are subjects needing of objective thinking, logic. It's in the Quran itself. ذلك هو الضلال البعيد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Illuminate your hearts and minds with a lot salawat ala Muhammadin wa ala Muhammad.